The next thing I got to experience was public transportation. Tokyo is so accessible in terms of public transportation. Let me tell you, I arrived here. This is my second visit to Japan. The first visit, very similar to your Emily. I had a guide who was with us from Office of International Affairs at OSU, and she was a beautiful guide, and she took us everywhere, and all I did was blindly follow.
Mhm.
And I enjoyed myself and saw all the sights for this trip.
You have to travel on your own.
Yes, I think you had a little bit of a
Yeah.
second agenda for me here.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it until now.
Yeah, but you travel very nicely.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So my colleagues from Ohio State
Mhm.
arrived here on Sunday, and Hisai and I had a mutual colleague from North Carolina come doing some work in the area of visual impairments, and Hisai said to me, well, why don't you come a little earlier and collaborate with us? So I did, and when I did, it was truly,
You were on your own.
yeah, I was on my own.
And had to explore, right? And there was no direct bus coming to Tsukuba.
No.
So you had to change the trains and yeah. But you
And
did go.
interestingly enough, I got in after the scuba bus closed for the night too.
Mhm.
The last bus was at 5:45.
Mhm.
Our plane landed at 6. That might have been purposeful too. But what I have learned over the last week is that accessibility of public transportation is something that's very thoughtful and mindful in Japan as well. Not only for those of us who are unfamiliar with the country. Yeah, I was able to navigate as a sighted traveler, unfamiliar. But in working with our colleagues who are blind and visually impaired, and the time I spent with Kozu and her friends over the last 5 days, she pointed out some great accessibility features. This first one is what we call a tactile map. And this is a tactile map of a train station here at Tsukuba Express. And this part of the map is able to be felt so that individuals who are blind and visually impaired can pre-plan their route. And then over here are auditory buttons. So if people have questions about different areas of the train station that they need to access, they can push those buttons and get those questions answered auditorily. Also, you'll see here the braille bumps extend into the subway and the train systems in a way that not only does it keep record of where individuals are traveling, you can also use those bumps to navigate to different areas. So there'll be different intersections that tell you which way to go depending upon when you're turning. A little bit of feedback from my colleague who does have a visual impairment. She said, these are the most helpful. This is actually the least helpful to her. Because oftentimes she already knows her route and has it pre-planned. So she very rarely uses the tactile map, but she always uses the braille bumps and the tactile bumps. Another thing that Kozu pointed out to me that is very helpful for travel in terms of accessibility on public transportation is the braille accessibility bumps that are located both on the rails. So those of you who are new to Japan or traveling the public transportation in Japan, check it out, like when you're walking out of train stations or into train stations. It's not something that people would typically recognize unless you know it's there, but this tells you what line you're on, if you're in the correct area for travel. And then when you get to the actual gates, there's braille to let you know what platform you're at, what train you're on, and what car you're sitting in. So she said that these two were very helpful and meaningful.
Yeah, and on the left, or the right picture, it says left, it explains about the different exits. So if you go to the left, you will reach the Koen exit, which is, I think this is Ueno?
I think,
Yeah.
yep, it is,
Yeah.
yes.
So it talks about like this way you will reach this type of exit, and then if you go on the left side, you go to that. So it actually tells the direction for, so that if you're visually impaired and you're traveling on your own, you have the guidance.
Yes.
Yeah. At the
I love that
theater.
you can read that too.
Yeah.
I cannot read Japanese Braille. People think that Braille is universal. It is not. Although I got a nice cheat sheet that I can learn a little bit of the difference differences and the similarities. But in terms of universal design and accessibility, this is a wonderful way just to ensure that public transportation can be accessible. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like universal design. I mean, it's very accessible for those who has vision impairment, but for international travelers like you, who does not necessarily know the language, also the transportation system, you're not familiar, but you still got to travel on your own and get to Tsukuba. So
Yes.
I think the accessibility piece, it's not, if it's accessible for certain people, it's oftentimes accessible for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So that piece of universal design is very important.
Alongside of that, and it's really nice to start talking about the technology and the traveling for individuals who are blind or individuals who are sighted using universal design, I will tell you Google Maps, spot on, excellent, easy to use. I talk about Google Translate, not always accurate, but sometimes, most of the time, it gives me the general idea of what I need to know. Those kind of apps can also be accessible to people who are blind and visually impaired if they're accessed in the right way. And one of the pieces that I was so impressed with and I was so fortunate to experience as part of my trip was some of the technology accessibility that is being developed here in Japan. And I'll preface this by saying this is not widely used. The three things that I'm going to show you that I got to experience, they're not currently widely used. But with each of the developers I got to talk with, the fact that they are being developed and they are being tested again and modified multiple times, these all have very good potential to be incorporated and used within inclusive smart societies. The first one, these are the braille bumps that we were talking about earlier. If you notice here, there's QR codes on these braille bumps. There's an app you can get on your smartphone. Here in Japan, it can be translated to English because I got to actually try it, which was cool. But basically, you put this app on your phone with the camera side down, and as you're traveling along the paths of the braille bumps, each intersection that you get to, your smartphone automatically picks up one of these QR codes, and it gives you directions. So as I traveled throughout the subway system, I was able to follow these line bumps. And then each intersection, when I got to the actual braille bumps, the phone would pick up that QR code and tell me the next step in my directions. So it might be turn left, move 2 meters. And then once I moved 2 meters, there was another QR code to say, continue walking 5 meters. And I was able to continue walking 5 meters. It was also able to tell me which station I was at and which train platform I was at in planning a route. It was also very interesting because it works throughout several different of the subway stations. Like I said, not universal yet, it's still in a trial period. But it allows people who are blind and visually impaired to travel and get that auditory feedback on whether or not they're keeping the correct route. And that was very interesting to see. And then this was the last piece of technology that I got to experience, which was so cool. This is my colleague Kozu, and here, this designer is creating a vibration piece of technology that goes into the shoe. So you wear one in your right shoe and then one in your left shoe, and I got to experience it as well. Not very obtrusive at all. Like it almost like clips on it, like a paper clip on your shoe. And as you're traveling, using smartphone technology and an app, the instructor programmed in her route and what she was looking for in her travels. And without any other assistance, Kozu felt the vibrations, forward vibration saying, yes, you're on the correct route. A back, like a heel vibration, if you went the wrong way, it basically told you turn around. And if you had to turn right or left, it was a vibration in your right foot or a vibration in your left foot. And also, interestingly enough, as you approached your destination, it would move from a slow vibration,
Mm.
boop, 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 you're going the correct way, to as you reached your destination, it was boop, 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 and then it would just do a 3-prong vibration and let you know when you arrived. So it was very interesting. Again, it's a technology that's being developed and practiced, but not anything that's universal yet.
Mhm.
And I don't use that word yet. I mean, I always like to use that word yet because
Yeah.
I think it's coming. Yeah.